Coffee Time with Officer Fox, guest starring DEA Special Agent Hudon. X marks the spot.
Okay, so John Satchel was up at the Bien Dong Vietnamese restaurant that we like to frequent in Tacoma. And he called Kevin Wetland and I, agents in Tacoma, to come up to Bien Dong because he was very, very confident that there was a Mexican American in the restaurant that he had arrested about 10 years earlier for a large amount of heroin, and the guy should not be back in country. And so we hustled out of the office and we drove up there to check about this guy. And the guy was already leaving the restaurant and was walking down the street. Myself and Wetland started following about 100 yards behind him, and the guy immediately was nervous and was looking back. We grabbed him, and because Satchel was so convinced that he was an illegal returnee to the United States, we brought him down to the DEA office. And I have a certain way of communicating with defendants, and I was going to fingerprint him and submit his fingerprint cards. And he started immediately, like each time he'd do the fingerprint, he would pull from my hand and smudge his print as he was going. And I stopped right there and threw out the card, and I explained to him, basically, of course, it wouldn't have happened exactly like this, but I told him if his fingerprint, I'm going to get his fingerprints, whether his fingers are still on his hand at the end of it or not. So he better just relax and let me get the fingerprints. So I fingerprinted him, and 25 back then, I think we had to fax the fingerprints to NCIC. They get back to us, yes, he is in fact this person that had been arrested by DEA Seattle 10 years earlier for a large heroin case. So we were going to arrest him as an illegal returnee. Well, Satchel then was transporting him to the jail, and there was an address for this guy that he had, and he said, could I go out and check the address? And I went out and checked the address, knocked on the door, and they said they didn't, that he used to rent from that place, but you know, there wasn't, they didn't really have a connection to him or anything. And I said, fine. And about 3 days later, there was an informant working at the Metro Detentions, or the Seattle Detention Center. And the informant said that this guy had given him a note to get out to some of his friends on the outside. And Satchel, because Satchel had done the case on the other person, the note came to Satchel, and he says, I don't understand what this note means, because he says, because in Spanish it said, here it is. And it was a shape of a triangle, an odd shaped triangle, and there were these X's on the triangle. And Satchel didn't know what it meant, but I came into the office and he looked at it, and he showed me the note with the triangle and the X's, and I said, holy shit. I said, the house that I went out and visited, it was this really weird lot that was on a jutting point where two streets converge, and it was a triangle shape just like that. So we then took the triangle map back out to the site, went to the owners and said, do you mind if we look around this property where these triangle shapes are on it? And we started digging holes. The first hole we started digging, there was a big plastic container in there with 5 kilos of coke in it. We then traveled to the other holes, and there were some spots inside the house as well, but I think we walked away with maybe 18 kilos of coke from various X's, where X marks the spot. And but there were some where we didn't ever find anything, so we thought maybe it had been removed before or something of that nature. But we always called that case the Treasure Island investigation, because really it started from nothing. And other than Satchel seeing this guy, here's where the person lives. We saw that it was a triangle shape, and then the guy gave the note to the wrong person at the detention center, and so we got his stash of coke, and he was charged with that as well.
That's a good story.
Yeah.